My fellow Americans, there comes a moment in public life when silence becomes complicity, when turning the other cheek becomes an invitation for more cruelty. Last week, during a nationally televised interview, I witnessed something that crossed a line I never thought would be crossed in American political discourse. Words were spoken, not about policy, not about leadership, not about the challenges facing our nation, but about the woman who has been my partner for over 30 years, the mother of my children, the person who stood by my side when nobody knew my name. Those words weren't just directed at me. They were aimed at the heart of what Michelle and I have built together, brick by brick, year by year, through the struggles of law school, through late nights in community organizing, through the uncertainty of early political campaigns, when we wondered if we could afford groceries and still chase a dream of serving others. Let me be absolutely clear. An attack on my marriage is not just an attack on me. It is an attack on every couple in America who has ever held hands in a hospital waiting room, who has ever argued about money at the kitchen table and found their way back to love, who has ever looked at each other after 20, 30, 40 years and said, "We made it through another storm." I have been in public life long enough to understand that criticism comes with the territory. I have been called inexperienced. I have been called naive. I have been told I talk too much and think too little. And you know what? Sometimes those critics had a point. I am not perfect. I have made mistakes in the Oval Office and in my living room. But what I will not accept, what I cannot accept, is the idea that my marriage, our marriage, is fair game for cheap laughs and political theater. Michelle Obama is not a political prop. She is not a punchline. She is a Harvard-trained lawyer who gave up a lucrative career to work in public service. She is a mother who somehow managed to keep our daughters grounded while living in the most scrutinized house in America. She is a woman who turned the platform of First Lady into a force for fighting childhood obesity, supporting military families, and inspiring young people to pursue higher education. But more than any of that, she is my wife, and that means something. I remember the first time I saw her at that law firm in Chicago. She was assigned to be my advisor for the summer, and I'll admit it, I was immediately smitten, not just by her beauty, though she was stunning, but by her intelligence, her integrity, her refusal to be impressed by anyone who wasn't serious about doing the work. She turned down my dinner invitations for weeks. She said it wasn't professional. She said people would talk. And you know what? She was right. People did talk. They talked when I was a state senator making $60,000 a year, and she was the breadwinner. They talked when I decided to run for the U.S. Senate, and she worried about our family's stability. They talked when I announced my presidential campaign, and she questioned whether America was ready for a black family in the White House. But through all of that talking, all of that speculation, all of those whispers, we held on to something that no pundit, no commentator, no late-night television host could touch. We held on to each other. Marriage, real marriage, is not about the moments when the cameras are rolling. It's not about the state dinners, or the magazine covers, or the carefully orchestrated photo opportunities. Marriage is about 6 a.m. conversations over coffee, when you're both exhausted from staying up with a sick child. Marriage is about supporting each other's dreams, even when they seem impossible. Marriage is about forgiveness when words are spoken in anger, about laughter when the world feels heavy, about choosing each other again and again, especially when it would be easier to walk away. That is what was mocked on national television last week. Not just Michelle and me, but the sacred covenant that millions of Americans enter into every year when they stand before their families, their communities, their God, and promise to love and honor each other for better or worse. And let me tell you something about worse. We've had our share. There were nights during the 2008 campaign when the attacks got so personal, so vicious, that Michelle would lie awake, wondering if we were putting our daughters through too much. There were moments during my presidency when the pressure of the office strained our relationship, when I was distracted by crises half a world away while she was handling crises right at home. But in every one of those moments, we came back to the foundation we built in that small apartment on the south side of Chicago when we were young and broke and madly in love. We came back to the promise we made to each other That whatever storms might come, we would face them together. That promise is not a joke. It is not entertainment. It is not material for a comedy routine. Now, comma, I know some people will say, Mr. President, why dignify this with a response? Why not just ignore it and move on? And I understand that instinct. I've ignored plenty of attacks over the years. I've bitten my tongue when critics question my patriotism, my faith, my commitment to this country. But this is different. This is about something bigger than politics. This is about the example we set for our children, the culture we create, the values we choose to defend or abandon. When leaders normalize disrespect, when they make cruelty commonplace, when they turn sacred institutions into sources of mockery, they don't just damage themselves, they damage the fabric of society. They give permission for disrespect to flourish in every corner of American life. I think about the young couple watching that television segment, planning their own wedding, wondering if their love will be strong enough to withstand the pressures of marriage. I think about the military spouse deployed overseas, trusting that their partner at home will keep the family together. I think about the elderly couple in the nursing home, holding hands after 60 years of marriage, still choosing each other every single day. What message are we sending to them when we treat marriage as a punchline? What are we telling our children about commitment, about loyalty, about the things in life that are too precious to mock? Let me share something personal with you. Malia and Sasha are both adults now, making their own way in the world, but they still call their mother when they need advice. They still come home for holidays and fill our house with laughter. They still roll their eyes at their father's jokes and light up when their mother walks into the room. That didn't happen by accident. That happened because Michelle and I decided, very early in our marriage, that no matter what pressures came from the outside world, we would protect what we had built together. We would shield our family from the cynicism, the cruelty, the casual disrespect that too often passes for political discourse. And we succeeded. Not because we're perfect, but because we never stopped believing that love is stronger than hate, that respect is more powerful than mockery, that the bonds between family members are sacred and should be treated as such. So when someone attacks my marriage on television, they're not just attacking Michelle and me. They're attacking every American family that has ever struggled to stay together, every couple that has ever fought through hard times, every parent that has ever tried to model healthy relationships for their children. And I won't stand for it. Not because I'm thin-skinned, not because I can't take criticism, but because some things are more important than politics. Some things transcend party lines. Some things deserve to be defended, no matter the cost. The truth is, Michelle has been defending herself and our family from attacks for over a decade. She has done so with grace, with dignity, with a strength that continually amazes me. When they questioned her patriotism, she responded with service. When they mocked her initiatives, she responded with results. When they attacked her character, she responded with love. When they go low, we go high. Those weren't just words she spoke at a convention. That was the philosophy that guided her through 8 years in the spotlight. 8 years of being scrutinized and criticized and second-guessed by people who had never walked a day in her shoes. But even Michelle Obama, strong as she is, shouldn't have to defend the sanctity of her marriage from attacks on national television. No spouse should. No family should. Marriage is not a Republican institution or a Democratic institution. It is not a liberal value or a conservative value. It is a human value. It is the foundation upon which societies are built, the bedrock of community, the source of our deepest joy and our greatest strength. When we mock marriage, we mock ourselves. When we cheapen the bonds between husband and wife, we cheapen the bonds that hold our entire society together. I have had the privilege of meeting thousands of couples during my time in public service. Young couples taking their first dance at campaign events. Middle-aged couples renewing their vows after surviving cancer, job loss, military deployment. Elderly couples celebrating 50, 60, 70 years together. And in every single one of those couples, I saw something beautiful. Two people who chose each other, who committed to each other, who built something together that was greater than the sum of its parts. That is what marriage means. That is what it has always meant. And that is what it will continue to mean, no matter how many times it's mocked on television. So let me end with this to the person who thought my marriage was appropriate material for comedy. To anyone who believes that love can be reduced to a punchline. To those who think that cruelty is a substitute for wit. You are wrong. You are wrong about marriage. You are wrong about Michelle. You are wrong about what makes this country strong. What makes America strong is not the ability to tear each other down. It's the commitment to build each other up. It's not the willingness to mock what others hold sacred. It's the wisdom to protect and defend the institutions that give life meaning. And as long as I have breath in my body, as long as I have a voice to speak and a platform to stand on, I will defend the institution of marriage, the sanctity of family, and the woman who has been my partner in all of it. Because love, real love, committed love, the love that weathers every storm is not a joke. It quote, "S the most serious thing in the world." Thank you, and may God bless you and your families.